Everybody. Sorry, a little technical problem there. Very good of you to join us. Thank you very much for joining us for this, the last of the series of seminars that we are doing here today for Portugal. This session is devoted to primary level, and we will be looking at I Wonder, a 6-part series that we have created for primary level. We had the chance, I think last year, to briefly introduce it when I had the pleasure of coming to Portugal. This year, we're going to take the opportunity through this platform to talk to you about it just that little bit more. You will forgive me if I look down occasionally. I have colleagues who are in the room, and they may send me messages if there's a technical problem and let me know, because I'm getting absolutely no feedback from the system. So forgive me if I look down. I promise you I'm not texting my friends. Just a couple of things regarding organization. The chat is open. I have one of my colleagues, George, is following the chat. If there are any questions that come up that I don't see during the course of the webinar, George will kind of collect those for me, and towards the end we'll have a chance to look at them, as many as we can given the time. If you have any questions regarding practical issues like ordering books, prices of books, delivery of books, etc., 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 I also know that our good friends and colleagues from Leirilivro are also in attendance, and if you direct questions to them, they will be able to help you with that and answer your questions. If it's more comfortable for you, those questions can be addressed in Portuguese, no problems there. Sadly, as many of you will know, my Portuguese is not up to that, so if it's towards me, please express it in English. Now, there's a number of things I want to show you today, and I'm just going to, because I like having, no, I'm not going to do it yet. Just a quick couple of words about the background to I Wonder. What we did in I Wonder, as it's a new course, is we wanted to explore the ideas connected to CLIL. As many of you will know, CLIL is something that has seen something of a resurgence in the last few years, in a slightly different format, in that nowadays we tend to talk about CLIL not in its original form, so much of whole schools having core courses in English, but in terms of what has become known as soft CLIL. That is the idea that within the language classroom, language learning can be achieved and language can be explored through the use of exploration of topics and themes that learners can explore and learn more about at the same time as improving their English. And what we wanted to do with I Wonder is to take that idea and create a whole course book, a whole series of course books with that. So you're looking more at an approach that is not purely linguistic. The idea of I Wonder is to give learners the idea that learning a language is not just about the vocabulary and the grammar and all the other stuff, but that learning a language is also a door to learning other things, exploring ideas, and of course through that expressing myself as well. So this was the kind of the basic idea behind I Wonder. I should point out, as I said, I Wonder is a primary level course. As such, at the lower levels, it's going to start very low down and introduce language. Sorry, I'm getting messages from my colleagues here regarding the seminar. So what I want to do is show you the components, to talk you through them, and through that process, show you just a little bit more about the structure of the course, because it is structured slightly differently from our normal primary level courses. So what I'm going to do is I am going to share my screen, and we've already checked this technically, and we know that it works. So just give me 1 second. For those of you not familiar with Zoom or for using platforms, please remember that sharing screen is a great way of sharing things like interactive whiteboard software. It really doesn't take much to get used to at all. Only things to remember are that if you're using, for example, Zoom, and you want to use the sound from your whiteboard, there is a choice on Zoom that says share my computer sound, and that box should be ticked so that your learners, if you do have to do this in a virtual classroom, and who knows what's going to happen later in the year, that you will then be able to play the sound from your computer and your students will hear it through their speakers. Okay, I am now sharing my screen, and you'll forgive me, I have to make, there we go. So now I can also see the chat because I have another screen next to me here. I can also see the chat with lots of people saying hello. So hello everybody who's saying hello. Everyone is so polite. It's really not, but Portuguese people are always like that. So what you have in front of you right now is the I Wonder interactive whiteboard software. Just a quick, forgive me, I have to say these things because some of you may have been in other seminars that we've been doing. Some of you may be coming to it for the first time. Just a quick word to remind you that interactive whiteboard software does not demand an interactive whiteboard, as much as the name might imply that. You can run the interactive whiteboard software. Obviously, if your school has the whiteboards, it's absolutely great. Obviously, I'm not using a whiteboard now. I'm running it through my computer. It can also be run from a computer connected to a TV screen if you have TVs in your classroom. It's very, very simple, very, very straightforward. And it's all about just helping demonstrate things to students and getting them more involved in the lesson. The whole thing is, it's a way of presenting and checking material in a way that adds just that little bit of extra interest. Okay, so what you can see, or I hope you can see in front of you, you should, is the main menu of the I Wonder interactive whiteboard software. We'll be looking at module 2, because that's where it's one of my favorite modules, I have to be honest, and I'll explain why when I go into it. As you can see, it's very clearly laid out. I will explain what the other things do in just a few minutes, but now I am going to click on module 2 and go into it. What you should see on your screens right now is the overview of this particular module called Shapes All Around. Now, Shapes All Around is a very primary level issue. Whenever we teach primary level, one of the first things we look at tends to be shapes, colors, etc. So that's not a particularly, that's not an innovation in this particular sense. However, what we have done in this particular course is we have approached the issue from a slightly different perspective. Guys, I can see that some people are raising hands. Unfortunately, during the course of this seminar, I can't really stop to answer every individual question. And at the same time, also, we can't turn your microphones on. You understand, at the moment, I'm very lucky. There are 95 people in the room. We can't have microphones on. If you guys do have questions, please, 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 could you write them in the chat? We're very happy to answer anything. I do have an eye on the chat here, as much as I can. It's on another screen. And as usual, I'm not wearing my glasses because I'm terribly vain. If there are any questions, please write them there. Not trying to avoid anything, but I won't be able to stop when people raise their hands. And certainly, I'm afraid we can't turn the sound on. Okay, so forgive us for that, but anything that comes up, we will be very happy to answer. And someone's already working with the book, and I thank them very much, and they seem to be enjoying it. And that is very much what we like to hear. Because to get back to the subject, one of the reasons that we followed this kind of CLIL approach is to add an extra level of enjoyment. Primary level kids, as a rule, tend to love learning about stuff. Primary level kids are like little sponges, absorbing information, learning stuff about the world around them. And this is one of the things that we really wanted to connect with in I Wonder. So as I was saying before, I made that slight detour to talk to people raising hands. We're looking at colors and shapes, but another thing we're looking at here is also we introduced the concept of something like abstract art. Now, this is where the CLIL approach is really wonderful. What it does, it allows us to take something a little kind of abstract and conceptual, like colors and shapes, and move it into a much more interesting context. We start thinking about things like abstract and realistic art, which is something you wouldn't normally find in a primary level book. Obviously, the language is there. Obviously, basic structures are there. At this level, we don't really analyze grammar, but there's underlying grammar in the material. So let me open up the first lesson for you. There we go. And talk to you just a little bit for a second about the structure and how in this case it is slightly different from other Express Publishing primary level courses. What you will remember from our other courses, and we stand by those and there's no problem with them, we just like to provide variety, is that normally we would start a module with introduction of vocabulary and some kind of text. Usually the first 2 lessons have text, and that's absolutely fine as well. But we wanted to do here for people who wanted to try this approach is do it slightly differently. So you will see here on the screen in front of you that we do not have a reading text. I Wonder starts with an introduction to the general concept that we're looking at in the particular module. So you can see obviously on the screen in front of you on the left here that what we have is abstract art, okay? Now, not necessarily brilliant, and I'm not necessarily the biggest fan in the world of abstract art, but what you do have there is abstract art. We're introducing the idea, remember, of shapes and colors. So one of the things that you will find in every lesson of I Wonder at the beginning of the lesson is this idea of introducing first the concept before rushing into vocabulary, text, so on and so forth. Let me just click here and show you this first question. It says, look at the painting. What colors can you see? Is it a realistic or an abstract painting? Now here, obviously, there may need to be certain explanations from the teacher, and that's absolutely fine. Now, if they're very, very low level, if their level of English isn't particularly brilliant, maybe a quick explanation in Portuguese would be appropriate here. Something along the lines of very simply, what is a realistic painting? A realistic painting is something that looks like something, like a flower or a dog or whatever it may happen to be. An abstract painting is shapes and colors. And really that's all the information that they would need at this point. We don't need to go into the history of abstract art. We don't need to talk about the various movements in abstract art. What we just need to establish is that some paintings look like things and other paintings are more about the shapes and the colors. End of story. So with that information, is this picture realistic or abstract art? Of course, it's abstract because it doesn't really look like anything, although maybe it looks a bit like an eye in the middle, and if they see that, that's absolutely wonderful, okay? So we can just introduce that concept with very few words in English or possibly in Portuguese. It's entirely up to you. But there is always, and if you can look down in the bottom right of your screen where you can see my cursor here, wiggling around, in the right of the screen you will see the video icon. All the first lessons, lesson number 1 in the module is accompanied by a video. And I'm going to very quickly play it. You should hear the sound. I'm going to be quiet because you'd hear both me and the video at the same time. So let me play you just a little bit of the video.
shapes all around. There are shapes all around us. Look, it's the London Eye. It's a big circle. What's that? It's the Louvre in Paris. There's a big triangle in front of it. Look at this painting. What shape can you see? That's right. These are squares. What shape is this painting?
I'm going to stop it there because everyone's having far too much fun. Obviously, what the video is going to do is going to introduce the basic vocabulary. So we've got squares, we've got circles, etc. Once we've watched the video, then you could, for example, very quickly ask the learners to look around the room and maybe identify where in the room they can see circles, squares, so on and so forth. So you can take that video and not just watch it as a passive experience, but having seen the examples in the video, learners can, for example, then discuss these things just in reference to circle, square, nothing very complicated at all. Okay, so if you have a look at my screen here in front of you, you will see that there are fairly straightforward activities. Wherever there is a circle, that is an interactive activity. I should point out that at certain points in all our interactive whiteboard software, there are examples of exercises that don't have a circle around them. Those activities don't have a circle because they don't need interactive whiteboard. They may be pair work activities, for example, or something the learner has to do on their own at that particular point. So although we have activities, interactive activities for every single lesson, sometimes there will not be, sometimes, because that's something learners need to do on their own. We do not want the whiteboard to dominate the lesson. Some stuff on the whiteboard, some stuff in pairs, some stuff on the book. Okay, so there should be this constant movement between things in the classroom. Otherwise, the whiteboard itself will become somewhat boring. Let me just talk to you a little bit about some of the functions on the screen while we've got this particular activity here. You will notice the headphones. I think they're fairly straightforward and no prizes for guessing what the headphones do. The headphones are audio, in this case, pronunciation activities.
Rectangle, rectangle, diamond, triangle.
Okay, so all of the audio is included in interactive whiteboard software. For me, this is a major step forward from things like CDs. Because, for example, there may be words there that they find terribly easy. And at the same time, there may be other words that they find a little more difficult. Diamond is actually quite a hard one because there's a tendency to overstress every syllable. Diamond. It's actually diamond. We tend to elide slightly there. So you've got all of the pronunciation there. As much as you like single words, you can just keep hitting that particular one. Let me talk about some of the other functions now because I haven't mentioned all of them. Down in the bottom right, one of the things that you can do with the interactive whiteboard software, for example, if you wished to test spelling, for example, you can here get rid of the words. You can press the audio.
Rectangle.
Okay.
Rectangle.
Or point to them, get rid of those. Point to them, get the learners to repeat, get the learners to write, and then check if they're correct or not. So you've got that going on. You also have the poster icon.
Rectangle.
Which is images that we take here.
Circle.
It's usually poster or flashcards. In fact, in this case, forgive me, it's flashcards.
Square.
Okay. All of the words that are going to come up.
Diamond.
To keep vocabulary in this particular lesson. Okay. So you've got all
triangle.
They're available to you. You can see all the navigation tools down the bottom is what I'm trying to show you here. You move forward.
Rectangle.
No, thank you. Be quiet. You can move forward in an individual exercise using the arrows or from exercise to exercise. Sometimes exercises have two parts, so you can move one to the other using the little arrows, and then from exercise 1 to exercise 2, you would use the bigger arrows down there. Something else, because people always ask me this, this is just a reset. The one in the middle is a reset button. So if there are answers on the screen, and I'll show you those later, you press the reset button and all the answers disappear. Here we don't have that. I'll show you in a few minutes. Also, we have the word list of all the target vocabulary. You can see it at the top there. It includes a picture dictionary if they forget words, or if you want to recheck them maybe in the next lesson. As revision, you have the pronunciation.
Circle.
Of course, there as well. And you can also, if you wish, again, if you're doing a quick kind of spelling revision activity, you can get rid of the word, have the image up, learners write it. Okay, so you can do a number of different things. You can manipulate those to either revise, test, or just explain again if learners have been having some difficulties. Okay, because at primary level, that's a really useful tool to have, especially with the pictures there. Okay, let me zoom through the activities here. I'm just going to show you some of the basic functions. This does not have a huge amount of grammar or vocabulary, so it's not going to take us terribly long. Wherever you have speaking, you have pattern practice. In this particular case, this is pattern practice.
What's this?
Can you hear the question intonation there? That's very, very important.
What's this?
And how it changes?
It's a triangle.
So you have
What's
interrogative
this? It's a triangle.
and the affirmative. So very, very important here. This particular function is great for getting learners to not just pronounce individual words correctly, which is important, but to put them together, and the intonation is such that it sounds more natural. Not every language follows the same patterns naturally in its own, in their own tongue. So what we need to do here is just get our learners listening, not just to the individual words, but to the flow. And again, because you can keep playing this, you can keep,
What's this?
what's this?
What's this?
Okay, you've got one kind of,
It's a triangle.
it's a triangle. So there's different sounds here. These are great, great things for learners to learn. Okay, and then you get into the exercise.
What's this?
You ask, what is the answer? So now I've thrown it over to the students. They had their example.
It's a circle.
Are they correct? Yes, they are, because they're absolutely wonderful, and I'm the best teacher in the world. So, other things that you will find which is not true, other things that you'll find in the software, and I'm going to show you the whole module just to show you the shape of it, but right now I want to show you some of the functions that it has. As I said, all the listening is included, either the kind of individual ones or the videos, the songs. This is your dialog box here for operating the music. So please remember that if you're using the interactive whiteboard software, you don't have to run around with finding CDs, you don't have to upload audio, nothing like that. And this, of course, if we do find ourselves in virtual classrooms, is a major benefit. Everything is in one place. You can put this on. If you're using something like Zoom, you can still be seen. I know you can still see me. You can run everything from the screen, talking at the same time as I am doing. Okay, very simple functions here. You just start.
I'm a square, a big purple square. Look at me, look at me.
Not going to play any more of that because at some point I'm heard singing in it, and I'm not going to do that to you. So all the songs are there for the learners to sing along. If you need the words are there for you. Okay, get rid of that. And of course, whenever we have a song, we have the audio and we will have the video.
I'm a square, a big purple square. Look at me, look at me. I'm a square, a big purple square. Look, can you see?
And as you can see from a linguistic point of view, we've got shapes and colors there, all combined together, okay? concepts that are perfectly easy for them to associate with. It's a nice little rhythm, that one. As I said, about the 4th verse, it's me. So it's worth buying it just to hear me making a fool of myself. All right. So there's the video icon there. And you can see that is essentially the first lesson. So we're not overloading them. We've got a lot of revision and recycling going on within the same lesson. We've got transference. We've got introduction to concepts, all going on there. But it's very, very gradual. It's very easy, a lot of repetition, as I said, and very importantly, opportunity to take some of that language off the book, to look around the classroom, just to mention things like abstract art, etc., to do a pattern practice between learners. So it's on the board, on the book, bit of video, bit of interaction. And that will make sure that your lesson will not just be worthwhile linguistically, but there's a lovely flow to it, lots of different kind of activities going on. So hopefully your learners will not get the chance to get bored, which of course at primary level is something of a death sentence. So moving on to the next lesson, this is lesson 2, obviously in the same theme. This is where we bring in the text. Now I should point out at these lower levels, this level, we don't have a lot of text written here. This comes later on. Obviously, let me just put this up. Here we have the text. Obviously, we also have the audio there. Okay. What we normally encourage teachers to do, to be fair, at all levels, but at this kind of level, at a very low primary level, is we encourage, before you even go into reading or listening or whatever it may be that you're doing, please, please, please discuss the pictures. Have a look at those pictures there. You can see they are all full of shapes and all full of colors. Okay, so before you actually start, the preparation, if you like, for the reading or the listening becomes a revision of vocabulary, etc., from the previous lesson. And that again is great because it saves a lot of time. Everything is thematically linked, it flows one to the other. Okay, so you will see here, this is the text. Your teachers, you know what that's about. Just to talk to you a little bit about the way the book works. Sorry, there is a question there. Anna, if you could direct that question, your question there, could you put it in the chat? And the guys at Leirilivro will answer that question for you. It's about buying, etc. So please, Anna, if you could put that in the chat, colleagues from Leirilivro will take that question up for you, okay? Because I don't want to get into that at this particular stage. But your question has been seen. Please do get in touch with the guys there and just put it in Portuguese, if you like, in the general chat. And my colleagues will answer that question for you. Okay, technical point, you can see here, because we didn't want to cram all the images onto one screen to make sure that they could do this discussion, you have the pages there, very easy, very straightforward. And of course, the listening will change there as well, okay? Alrighty, other functions that you have. Obviously, you have the whole listening, I've already discussed that. Obviously, what you have as well, you can listen to individual frames.
Okay, give me the square.
Okay, and that can be used. Oops, do it again.
Okay, give me the square.
Okay, what you can
Here you are.
is, of course, do listen and repeat again for what I was saying before. So you can listen to the whole thing and follow it through, but you can also now use it as an opportunity, again, for pronunciation practice and intonation practice as you go through. So let me just go through these activities. Now, some of these are in the student's book. Some of these are also in the, no, they're not. Some of these are in the IE book. Sorry, maybe I said the wrong thing. In the IE book, and also, of course, in the student's physical book. A function I haven't shown you is this one up here. Okay, because what we've got them doing here is looking at the text and seeing which frames have which colors, and they have to choose the correct one. When you're doing any kind of exercise, there are usually a couple of ways of doing it. You can do them individually. That's not correct. Okay, so what is the color there? It's green, okay? And it will take you back to the text where learners can see the green thing going on. Okay, so you can answer them one by one, or if you're in a hurry, you just click the one at the top and all the answers come up and learners can check their answers. So again, if you're working maybe in a virtual classroom, you can just have this quickly up there and learners can check their answers very, very quickly, okay? So we got that, moving on, moving on. There are things like craft work involved in the book. Now, you may say that we can't do craft work if we're working in a virtual classroom. I would like to point out that we recently ran a competition from Express Publishing during the major quarantine period for everybody before anybody was coming out of quarantine. And basically what we asked learners to do was to make their ideal house and send us photographs. And we ran a competition there. So even if you are in quarantine, and God forbid that should be the case next school year, but let's be realistic, there may be that possibility. Even if you're in that environment, and it may even help parents out, if you do things like craft work, those levels, you can maybe get learners to do the craft work and send you pictures of it. Now, okay, it may be that the parents help them out with it. Okay, it's primary level. In this case, it's not a competition, there are no prizes. So if their parents maybe help them out with a little bit of the craft work, it's not the end of the world. And in fact, it's kind of a nice thing for parents and kids to work together. So even the craft work can be done from home if necessary, okay? Craft work then, revising the structures that we have, question and answer, okay? So we've got those things going on still. Moving on, moving on. I've shown you most of the basic functions, so now I really just want to focus on the structure of the book, okay? There we go. Sorry, just getting rid of something on my screen here. What we've got going on here as we move through the module is we move into things like consolidation. So far we've had colors and shapes. You've seen the focus. Now, learners have also, in an earlier unit, they have encountered numbers. So now we start to bring those together. So we've got revision of the numbers. Boom, you can see that there in exercise 7, leading into using numbers with shapes, etc. Okay, so as the book goes on, you get this kind of cumulative revision where we introduce the specific topic of the unit, new vocabulary, new ideas, and then we start to combine it with previous knowledge as well. So you get this lovely kind of spiral learning going on as well. Okay, I see some questions there. If it's about the Portuguese school system, maybe one of my Portuguese colleagues could jump in with that and provide an answer immediately, because I see something about the levels there. It'll save a little time. If any of my Portuguese colleagues are in, please do feel free to jump into the chat as well, if you would like. So here, you will also see, very importantly, the listening activities, for example. Many of them, for example, if you're thinking of young learners examinations, you have things like listen and do something. So listen and number, listen and find, listen and color. You will find those activities throughout I Wonder. On that note, I would like to point out, before I forget, because it's very, very important, that within the teacher's resource material available for I Wonder, we do have a practice test for the, depending on the level, for young learners exams. So for example, for I Wonder 1 and 2, you have starter, if I can remember correctly, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. 3 and 4 would be movers, 5 and 6 flyers, okay? And that kind of also moves you into the pet area as well, okay? So there is some focus on things like young learners exams as well, the idea of listening, following instructions, finding, identifying, so on and so forth. So please do bear that in mind. As I said, in the teacher's resource material, we have explicit practice in those exams as well, available. It's on a CD-ROM to be printed out. So wanted to make sure I told you that before I forgot, because then I couldn't get in touch with you again. Okay, so here we've got a kind of consolidation activity going on, and then we get into the really good fun stuff, coming into the, sorry, overactive finger, into the last part of the course here. What you will have here is starting to work towards project work. Project work is a big part of this course. We've included it in all our courses, and in the last few years, we've been placing a lot more emphasis on it. Obviously, as Portuguese teachers, you will be very familiar with the expressions, for example, spoken interaction, spoken production, written interaction, written production. Now, at these levels, we're not doing much in terms of, for example, written interaction. But here, the idea of producing a project and then talking about it very much is spoken production. This is the idea of separating out those skill areas. So what we're looking at in project work, and let me just click on it so you can see precisely what I'm talking about here. It says make your own MyShape art project, present it to the class. That is presentation skills, it is production work there, you're talking, it's extended monologue. Now obviously at these levels, a minute maximum is there. And of course, even with things like virtual classrooms, if you have the opportunity to interact with your students, they can still talk about their project. It can still be there. Okay, so but hopefully you'll be doing it in a real classroom, in a physical classroom. Obviously, what we've got going on here is they're going to get into doing their own little bit of abstract art. But before we ask them to do that, we provide them a model. So we get back into this discussion, which is an abstract painting, which is realistic. What shapes can you see? Looking at the individual shapes, learning to distinguish which one is which, and not just how many shapes, how many of a specific shape can you see there. So we're reminding them of the concept. We're talking about ways of making a piece of art here. And then, of course, what we do is we ask them to do a little project of their own. You have a sample there, and this is my favorite one. This is a little kind of example of what a student might come up with. We've put it there as an example to show them what they might want to aim for.
MyShape Art by Alex.
Okay, and then what you can do is just get them to talk about the colors and the shapes within their particular art. It's got triangles, it's got squares, it's got blue circles, whatever it may happen to have. Okay, so what you've got there, those are the 4 basic lessons. You can see there is video in a number of places. These are videos of songs, things like that. I'm not going to demonstrate all of them. You'll forgive me. Just to get back to the main frame, because I need to, for the remaining time, also show you some of the other components that we have. We also have in each module, this would come after the project work, we have these CLIL sections. Here for this particular module 2, you have one that's based on maths. Remember I told you that we're bringing numbers back in. I love this as well. And this is great for kids who are not necessarily linguistically oriented, but they have other skills, they have other ways of thinking. Looking at things like patterns, predicting a pattern you've got there going on, okay? And we do it with the abstract things like shapes, and then you also have numbers over here. And even, notice this in number 4, let me put it up for you. Okay, you've even got the idea of multiplication essentially there. Yeah? But there we go, and they can draw those there as well. Okay, so that's what they would have to draw. So we're working at multiplication through drawing. It's a lovely way of combining things, and of course learners are learning maths in other lessons, so they can bring that knowledge in. Okay, so in the CLIL section, they get into that stuff. This, you can see there's CLIL going on for every one of the lessons there. Sounds and words is also in each module. If I want module 2 there. You have gradual work on building up pronunciation of specific sounds. It's arranged in a very specific way that we focus on the more common sounds first over the course. I don't mean in one lesson. And we get into the slightly less common ones. What you will also find in the sounds and words is we have the sight words section. Now, I'm sure you know what it means, but I'm just going to repeat it anyway. Sight words are words that don't necessarily follow normal pronunciation rules, but we do need them to know these words. And these are chosen very specifically because these are words that are going to come up in the following lessons. So learners don't learn to sound them out as we would do in the other pronunciation activities. Learners learn them as a sound unit. They will come up, and they're very specifically chosen, as I said, because you can see they're very functional words, and there are words that they're going to need as they go through the course. So the sight words have been chosen very, very specifically. Okay. I can see in the chat, just if you are not following the chat, Sergio has put in a phone number there. So if you don't know the phone number of Leirilivro, but I'm sure you do because they have a lot of contact with you guys, but it is there and you can chat with them about anything that you find of interest to what we're talking about today, which levels it might be appropriate for. As I said, practical stuff like that. I can see that Sergio's in the chat there. So when we finished, don't inundate them all at once. Send them a mail, give them a phone call. They're a great bunch of people, and my friends as well. So please, if there are any things that are not answered that you would like more information about, do contact them. Okay, so we have sounds and words. There is a review section. Oops, should go to number 2, so it makes sense. There we go. End of every module, chunk, 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 just to double check. This kind of feeds into formative assessment so that you can see what they're happy with and what they're not happy with. And then if they are not happy with some things, you can go back, you can double check, you can use your picture dictionary, you can use the word list, you can go back to where they encountered it for the first time. And if there's anything that they've not, they're not particularly comfortable with, you can go back there. Zooming through because we have a couple of other things to show you. There are, in each book you have these what are called wonder tales. Now there's not one in every module. It's just a couple in the book. This is the particular one that is associated with things like colors, etc. These are all based on fables, traditional stories. This one is from Belgium, no waffles included. And all of the stories are chosen because they have a particular theme, a particular value that learners might explore there. So this one, I'm not going to play it for you now, guys, but it's how birds got their color and how one bird put the others before himself and actually ends up slightly better off for it. Now, you can discuss the moral value of that. That's entirely up to you, but it's a traditional story and it's kind of nice about how the birds got their colors and how some birds ended up being multicolored. And there's video that accompanies that as well. 2 other things that you have: World of Wonder, cross-cultural information, looking at things from different countries. Okay, so there's 2. There's one that goes from module 1 to 4, modules 1 to 4, and then for the rest following on. Okay, I love the square watermelon. That's a real thing, by the way. So you can cut a watermelon into slices. And I love showing this one because it's got chocolate. So there you've got that one there as well, and ice cream, which is a good thing to look at, especially this time of the afternoon. Okay, well, the one that we showed you, happy holidays. Just a couple of, in each book, you've got just this couple of ideas. This one is to do with summer, breaking up from school, thinking about things we do during summer, talking about them as well. So the end of the year, that could come into play. There is an alphabet book, which work through the various letters of the alphabet. If they haven't got there yet, if you want to do a review maybe at the beginning of the year, that's for this level, it's not for all levels. There are the posters that I mentioned earlier on. As I said, some vocabularies introduced through posters, some through flashcards. All of those are interactive.
Orange. Red.
Okay, for vocabulary demonstration. And remember, all of this is on one disk. All of this is in one program. This is not run around the classroom and find things. And this really does save a lot of time. What you also have, students don't have this, you have this, is the answers to the activity book. Okay, so if you're marking the activity book, it's very, very quick to do. You just press on that if you're in a hurry. And if you've been giving them homework or some time in the lesson to do some activities, you've got the whole of the activity book there and running at a time. So sounds and words, there's more pronunciation practice in the activity book. There's a reader included. In this case, it's Little Red Hen. You can do it throughout the year. That forward a bit.
She wants to cut the wheat.
Okay. You got that going on there. I'm not going to show you the whole video. Time runs apace. You have quizzes.
It's quiz time.
Like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire kind of thing.
Team B.
I'll just show you one question.
Team A. Get ready. Look, listen, and choose. 17.
Okay, there's a question there as well. I'll come back to that in a second. There is this question here that says, if the book already has a CLIL approach, why do you still have a CLIL section, intermediate section, and the cross-curricular one? Very simply, because as I said, this book uses the CLIL approach, but it still remains a primary level language course book. And we're looking at soft CLIL, not hard CLIL. In order for learners to be able to talk about the things and to be able to explore things in English, especially at primary level, we still have to build up their basic skills. This is not task-based learning. This is exploring things thematically and then making sure that that language is contextualized within exploration of a thematic theme. Now, as the course goes on, and I can't show you the whole course now, I'm afraid, but you will see that we get slightly more into the subject areas. Please remember that if we're going to talk about abstract art, we need the vocabulary for talking about shapes and colors, etc. So I'm not saying that every single lesson is 100% CLIL. What I'm saying is it's very thematically connected. We build the language that learners will need to be able to move into exploring those subject areas. Especially at primary level, you can't just throw them in at the deep end and expect them to do pure CLIL. There's a massive problem with that. There's a theory called the threshold theory that says that basically if you want to be able to guess from context, you do need to understand a great deal of that context already. When we're dealing with primary learners, especially at these lower levels, we have to understand that we're still building their basic language skills. It is absolutely impossible for them to describe a square, for example, and talk about a square if they don't know the word square, if they don't know the words for the colors. So as I pointed out right at the beginning, this is not full CLIL. No one is claiming it is. This is very much the idea of soft CLIL and exploring things in a slightly richer, more contextualized fashion than we would possibly normally do, which makes it a little less kind of abstract. And yes, we do put that other CLIL section at the end of each module. That is very much to allow for synthesis with previous units as well. As you saw, that CLIL section was to do with things like numbers, maths, etc. So that was across the curriculum. What was the CLIL thing? Sorry, my brain has stuck. Okay, what was the CLIL thing? Let me show you because I'm not. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it was right. You got maths coming in as well as the colors and the shapes. It's about consolidation. So yes, I am not suggesting for a second every page is 100% CLIL, but it's all very, very tightly connected. Okay, it builds up the language skills that they will need to be able to do it. We cannot do, you can't just throw them in at the deep end at this level. They will not be able to swim. There is structure, there is support, but the language is very much related to exploration of a topic. Okay, So I showed you the quizzes. Now I need to pause my shared screen just for a second. And now I need to change to another screen, which should be here. Just to let you know, I'm going to start sharing the screen again because I have like 12 minutes left. The students will also, oh, that's not it. Sorry, I'm just going to do this while you can, I've got to pause the screen again. Sorry, that's my mistake. I'm trying to do too many things at once, and I'm guessing you all know that feeling. That should be it. Sorry, I'm changing things on my screen. Yes, okay, now I can resume the share. Students also get the I wonder, it keeps going back to that, dear. They basically, the students get the IE book as well, which is this. I'm just going to close that. Sorry, my computer seems to be doing something wonderfully silly, and I'm just going to make sure it can't do it anymore. I'm going to start resharing the screen. We had a slight technical hitch there, and I'm sorting out right now. There we go. What you have on the screen in front of you, or should have in front of you, is the IE book. This is for the students to take home. This is for them. It has many of the things I've shown you, the songs, the videos, etc. What it doesn't have are the answers. Okay, so learners, if they want to practice the song or watch the video again, it's all there for them. If they want to do the coloring activity, it's there for them as well. So this is something for the students to do that extra practice. And of course, if you have students who maybe are not particular, maybe they have pronunciation issues, for example, they can go home, or if they're already at home, and they can practice
circle,
their pronunciation.
circle,
Okay, so what you will find is it has pretty much everything that I showed you before. What it doesn't have is the answer key. Okay, so they can use this to help them with their homework. They can use it to do extra practice if they just like the song and they want to sing it. If they want to watch the video, it's there for them. Okay, so that's the IE book. I need to pause my sharing again, and hopefully this will work slightly better this time. I'm just going to change screens here. Of course, in the modern world, one of the things that we also have to think about is things like the Digibook components. Please remember, I'm going to start my square again. No, this is very, very irritating. Forgive me. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And I'm going to go to here, and then I'm going to start sharing again. Where have you gone? I've lost everybody. There we go. I lost you guys for a minute. Then I thought I'd close the actual Zoom. So many buttons going on in front of me here. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen there, and I'm going to jump to my browser, which is already open. Can you confirm for me, guys, that you can now see the Digibooks? Is that possible? No. Okay, I'm going to stop share then and start it again.
Steve, you could only see a screensaver or something.
Yeah, it's okay. I got it here. So I'm sharing it now. Guys, George, can you confirm that you can see it?
Now it's very clear, yes.
Thank you, George. The ghost of George, that's my colleague, George Kokos, everybody there, who is being a great colleague and helping me out. Thanks, George. So this is the Digibooks platform. Many of you will be familiar with it, and it is slightly laggy, the internet, because I'm actually recording the seminar as well. There is a Digibooks component that goes with the series for the activity book, at these levels. And if you, I'll just click on that. Forgive me, as I said, that my computer's doing a number of things. It's recording the seminar as well. It's very slightly laggy. The activity book, all the activity book is included in the Digibooks platform. So if you want to maybe give them some homework to do, I'm just going to flick through some of the activities. You can see it's very much, it's colorful, it's a primary level activity book, okay? I'm just trying to find, I'm just flicking through some of the exercises for you to see. Notice that you have the listening is also included for the activity book. Let's just play that one.
1. It's a desk.
Okay, 1, it's a desk. So I'm gonna click on that. Remember, they're doing this at home
2.
through the app.
It's a pencil.
It's a pencil. I'm gonna get that one wrong. Bear with me.
3. It's a ruler.
It's a ruler.
4. It's a pencil case.
Okay, it's a pencil case. Okay. Sorry, things are coming up in the chat. Okay, so now what learners can do, this is the teacher's one, but it's exactly the same as what the learners would do because I'm just saving time, is to then click on check. And you can see, oh dear, I got one wrong. And what I can then do is try again, and I can listen until I get it right. Of course, in this case, it's 50-50, so I'm not going to do it. Now, you can see another icon here. If the learners try it twice and still have questions that they haven't answered correctly, they can click on the eye icon, which will become active, and it will give them the answers. This is only working at primary level. We don't do this at secondary level, at the upper levels. But after a couple of times, if they can't quite get it right, to save frustration, they do that. Now, if, for example, again, this is the teacher's version, and forgive me for time reasons, I'm going to stay here. But if you wanted to set it for homework, you would simply assign the activity to the class down here, and the students would receive it in their assignment section on their version. Now, because there seems to be an issue with jumping between screens, I'm not going to jump there to save time, but in the students' platform, they have a thing which says assignments. They would just go there, click on it, and they would see what assignments they have. So you can give it for homework, or you can have it in real time. If you want to do some of the activities from the activity book during the lesson, you can assign them right there and then, or you can just tell students about it. The students can then go to their Digibook version. If you're in a virtual classroom, I'm talking about here, they can go to the Digibook version and they can do the activities from the activity book right there and then during classroom time. And very importantly, what will happen then is that the answers will be sent back to you. Now, I'm afraid, as I said, to save time and because there seems to be a bit of a glitch, I'm not going to show you that particular activity. But what happens is when students do an activity, you see their progress on the screen in this format, okay? So you get instant feedback. So let's say you want to give them 5 minutes to do an activity from the activity book. You give them 5 minutes, you on your platform go to the progress section and you can see which students have completed the activity and importantly what score they've got. Now, obviously at primary level, it shouldn't be too hard to get 100%. But what you can see here, this is 100%. As I said, it's from another activity, but it's exactly the same principle. If you click on that, you can see how many attempts it took them to get 100%, and importantly, what they got with the first attempt, okay? So what you have here with the Digibooks platform, along with the interactive whiteboard, is a way of presenting the material to the class, getting the class involved. And if you are in a virtual classroom, for example, you can give them activities from the activity book right there, right then, and you get real-time feedback. So that saves you the time of having to mark everything. If they've done stuff for homework, which is great, again, you can go here to the progress section and you can see who's done all their homework and how well they've done before you've even gone into the classroom. So what that means is you've got that feedback going on, and you can also prepare yourself. You can see maybe activity 2, everybody had a problem with, okay? So that you can go there and you can explain that and you're ready and you're prepared for it. Remember, the students also have their own IE book, so they can prepare for things like acting out a text or dictation activity, or just revising their vocabulary, they can also use that in their own home as well. So these components really do cover you for all of these aspects of the things that you would normally do in the classroom at the same time. But please remember that the book is not just about these components. The book is also about building their English. It's about using English to communicate. Okay, let's not lose sight of that. It's about the project work. It's about presenting the project. It's about getting interested in subjects. And of course, please remember, and to go back to the comment, I think there's a lady made earlier on, if your learners, as your learner's language expands, of course, as you go through the book, you can stop every now and again and expand on a subject. You can start saying, have you seen any abstract art anywhere? Did you like it? Yes, it was in a museum, or yes, there's one abstract statue in the center of town. There's always a way of expanding it, and that's absolutely fine and right that you do so. In fact, we would encourage you in I Wonder to really stretch those boundaries when we build the basis of the language, to encourage learners to really talk about and express themselves on that subject now that they have the language to be able to do it. Okay, and it saves time. Very quickly on that, when we were first doing interactive whiteboard software many years ago now, I was speaking to a colleague in Cyprus, a teacher in Cyprus. She was piloting the interactive whiteboard software from one of our course books. What she told me was she was 3 weeks ahead, 3 weeks, not 2 lessons, 3 weeks ahead of where she had been the previous year without the interactive whiteboard software. And guys, you don't need me to tell you how much of an advantage that is. It's bam, bam, we move from this, we move to that, we move to the other. Okay, you won't have as many screens to show as I did today, so your life would be a lot simpler when you're using it. And again, I'll find out what my issue was with the sharing. Last session, it worked brilliantly well, so it's probably just the gods of the internet. But it's all about saving time, but very importantly, it's about getting students engaged, it's getting them to use their brains, and it's getting them to see the purpose of the language so that they don't feel that they're just learning gobbledygook that doesn't really mean anything. And it's connecting language with experience, which is also very important. Guys, my time has run out, and the gods of the internet will snatch you away from me. If anything has come up that you are interested in exploring further, again, please chat to the guys at Leirilivro. They're really nice people, so talk to them, because sometimes they get lonely if they're in quarantine. Okay, send them a mail, give them a call. They have representatives all around the country. Many of you will know them. Just ask your questions. They're in touch with us, so there's a lot of information available to you. For now, I shall just have to say goodbye. And as usual, I wish you to all stay incredibly safe, incredibly well, look after yourselves, and hopefully we'll be able to meet face to face in the not too distant future. Okay, guys, so look after yourselves and take care till next time, okay? Bye-bye for now, everyone. Bye-bye.